You counterfeit only something of value. Is that true or false? I think we're filled with counterfeit religions. But in a positive sense, they're trying to counterfeit something that's real. Well, I take God to be an answer to that, but it's not a cop-out. But without understanding these are the main forces that shape the world that we live in. I can't do anything about that, it's already happened. And therefore, to improve it, or to have a better teacher teaching wrong-headed stuff, I don't know that that's going to modify anything. In fact, I doubt that it would, but anyway, that's where we are now. If you can just improve it. Improve what? If it's wrong-headed, I don't know how improvement of something that's misguided and misdirected is going to improve anything. Very long, you hear that? Very long. It'll all work for a little while. Oh, give it a chance, you're too negative, you're all judgmental. Well, when I go to the doctor, when I have 7 resident doctors, isn't that right, Jill takes care, she's the 8th. She's a brain surgeon. But she didn't find anything to work on with her husband. But anyway, I expect them to do what, you think? To know more than I do. If they don't, I don't need, forget the money that it costs. I don't need them if they're not any better equipped about the situation. And I expect them to know what? Truth. You're too young, there's nothing wrong with you, you don't go to doctors, but see, I have 6 or 7 resident doctors. They're crazy about me because of the money that I give them. And they go to the Bahamas every second trip I make. But anyway, I also don't go to the pharmacists. There are no postmodern pharmacists. There are no postmodern doctors.
Doc, I got a question.
Go ahead and ask it.
We've got about 12 minutes of tape, and I didn't know if you had any commentary, just a few comments on the emergent church in regards to
Oh, right, the emergent church. The emergent church came about, now notice when it came about. Grenz and all the high priests.
McClaren and all that.
McClaren. It came about, first of all, from the influence of Pannenberg. Pannenberg was the high priest of Grenz and his disciples. And he was non-judgmental, non-foundational. Well, what is the foundation that they're non-foundational about in the emergent church? First of all, it's not emerging, and it's hardly identifiable as the church, unless your postmodern definition. What happened? What happened with non-judgmental and they certainly couldn't deal with Jesus in his confrontational attitudes with the Pharisees. Well, that's the later church interpreting that. Jesus wasn't like that. Well, isn't that odd how much access they have with Jesus outside of the Bible? I said, where do you get this information? They must be Gnostics. If they don't believe the Bible, don't just talk about it then, because you don't have any more information than that. But non-judgmental, non-foundation, historically came from Pannenberg's influence. Pannenberg, like all the great minds, and they're enormously great, didn't deal with science. Barth didn't, Bultmann didn't, Pannenberg didn't. I don't know of a German theologian that dealt with science. There might be millions, I just don't know of any. Well, here comes, what do they mean by non-judgmental? You mean you don't make any judgments? Then in non-judgmentalism is a worldview. Non-foundation, that means what? You know what it means. There's no foundation, and you don't want to judge.
You're just flying by the seat of your pants.
Well, it's like the pilot said, we're lost, but we're making good time. What are you talking about? Nothing. So non-judgmentalism, and the last time I had information, which has been a couple of years ago, there were 15,000 neo-evangelicals meeting in California. Maybe they had meetings since. And these claim to be evangelicals. But I think, I'm sure it's wrong, that has to be a judgment that they're not Hindus or Buddhists or Catholics or something. They're new evangelical. That's like neo-evangelicalism. I do not believe it's neo nor evangelical. Neo means new. What's new about it? They've denied the very foundation of Christianity. Well, that's been done before. So that means they're rebelling against, sometimes some of that is not false, they're rebelling against what? Now some of that is acceptable, I understand under that judgment. Legalism. Well, legalism is like the Pharisees and Sadducees. Legalism is not the position that doesn't believe, or that believes they control all knowledge. Well, that's a far cry from not believing there is any. Or to say Kant was a legalist, or Kierkegaard was a legalist. I don't just name any great mind. These are legalists. Einstein was a legalist. He thought he was smart, got these equations just because he changed the world. What makes you think he's smart? Okay. He had predictive capability in his equations. Well, that don't make him anything. I don't like him anyway. Well, what is it? It's all about judging. And it's all about the foundation of the judgment. There's no way to live in this world, scientific or otherwise, and be non-judgmental and non-foundational. So all these people, the neo-evangelical, came about at a time where they were rebelling against classical, what they call classical, authoritarian evangelicalism. Well, there's a possibility of needing some correction about that, but to say that there's nothing at all that's foundational and fundamental is something that I could not set too gentle with. You mean non-foundation about what? Jesus? Well, no, I make judgment about Jesus. Well, you just gave me a non-judgmental position. Now, if you mean you're restricting the things that you come down negatively on, that's a different, but that's not what you say. You say the neo-evangelical is non-judgmental and non-foundational. Well, what's the non-foundation? There's no foundation in the creation of the universe. There's no foundation in the biblical God. That may be. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but that don't make any sense to me. Because even the people that say that don't believe it. Because they still claim to be what? Well, is that or is that not a judgment? Well, first of all, they can't live like they talk. Well, that's always a clue. There's some defect in the position. You can't live like Hindu. Hindu cannot live like they talk. Do they change in how they, no. Well, they also, you don't do microscopic physics with Hinduism. Quite simple, because you can't. Because it's not real. You know, they've got an answer to it. But what do they do with the last 4 people that I checked on? When non-Christian religions that believe all these things, when the leader gets sick, where do they go? Now tell me.
Western doctor.
Males. You're correct, old wise man. Well, why, if they've got the answer, why do they go to Mayo's, to an expensive doctor that's non-existent? Because they realize they're dying. Well, see, dying is an illusion. Well, it's an illusion till it comes to me. Then it's no longer an illusion. So you can't live, and that's an example. Great leaders in world religions come to males. What for? Because they've heard that it's the only place that can keep me alive. All right, we're back into the discussion then. Now, if you stayed home and just died, that would end that. But you don't believe it for a minute. You talk like it, but it's hard to live with that kind of talk. Well, those are examples of not believing it. That's all. And they have expensive bodyguards. Guard these dudes up, males. Last time I knew anything about, one of them had 12 bodyguards. Well, they're big enough to bear the switch. Why do they need to watch over them? To guard that nobody did what to their leader. Well, if that's an illusion, if their illness is an illusion, sickness and death are illusionary, you're paying an awful lot of attention to an illusion. And if it's an illusion, it's the most powerful illusion that you've ever heard of. You can't live with that kind of talk. You could talk like that, but you can't walk the talk. Well, sometimes that's all we can say. How do you live? Stay away from males if you're there. Because your whole position is a repudiation that their body has a disease that's killing you. You need a heart transplant. Why do I need a heart? Nothing ever makes any sense. So again, how they talk, how they win friends and influence people, they can't live that way. That's refutation enough, I think. I'm sure it's wrong, but I don't believe so. No, but the neo-evangelical came about because they were rebelling against the legalism of their upbringing. Do you know anything about that, Chris?
A little bit. Yeah.
Okay. And a specialist in that field. But see, legalism may not represent biblical Christianity. Now, if you mean by legalism that you can't believe anything, but that's not what they mean by legalism. Legalism is like the Talmud and the Mishna. They have explanations. These are things you know there. In the Talmud and the Mishnah, these are the commentaries of the law. The law said to work on the Sabbath. Then they had laws telling you how much you could do on the Sabbath and you can't. See, that's legalism. He said not to work on the Sabbath, but you could walk. They got statements in the document. You can walk 6/7 or something, I forget now, 6/7 of a mile. When you walk a mile, it's work. Bible said don't work. See, they had that's legalism. If you want to know what legalism, my evaluate, read the Mishnah and the Talmud. Then I'll talk to you about legalism. I will not talk to you about legalism to think that because someone believes something, they're a legalist. Because I don't go to the doctor, you're a legalist because you believe this. But again, I think the two documents that are readable and studyable, you people know about it, but the Talmud and the Mishnah. Read that if you want to know what I think is real legalism. See, they had an explanation, and you got a heart attack reading all the exception clauses. It's like reinterpreting the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Now, our Supreme Court and our court system, laws, the lawyers are mainly reinterpreting the Constitution. It isn't that the Constitution, you can read the Constitution if you're a slow reader in 10 minutes, less than that. You could read Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address in 4 or 5 minutes. Change the world. Well, what's in it? Much of legalism. Why? Because it puts boundaries on acceptable behavior. If that's legalism, then that's legalism. But I doubt that most people, when they go even to high school physics class, the physics teacher said, this is wrong. You're a legalist. They may, but somebody, you might have some relative that does that. They don't go to math class. You got F+ in math. Well, you're a legalist. Nobody talks like that. Why does the body of Christ allow people to talk because of belief system? They're legalists. Because our world is full of legalists. It's like if I go to Kroger, just simple, this gets ridiculous. Go to Kroger's and steal $14 worth of groceries, try to walk out. And they say, well, you're going to jail. We caught you. We got you on the tape here. I said, you're a bunch of legalists. Nobody, that's stupid. See, nobody's going to do that. You don't go any place. Go to Bizardo's and say, we're not paying the bill. You're a legalist here. Now, there might be some student that goes there and say, well, we're not paying this $40 bill here. You're just money crazy. You're a legalist. Well, if you believed anything, does that make you a legalist? Surely not. And the Pannenberg influence of non-judgmental, non-foundational is a total distortion of the whole development in these things, in my estimation. Other than that, it's fine. But, does that make any sense, Christopher?
Yes.
No, I think it's serious. When you get 15,000 people paying several $100s to go to a seminar in California, I don't know whether they had one this year or not, but 2 or 3 years ago they had one in California. There were 15,000 there. Well, I'm sure it wasn't free. Well, somebody had to judge that. I said, you're judgmental. I'm in a non-judgmental seminar, and you're judging that I want to pay. It's unavoidable. You can't function without judging. Huh? But does that make any sense at all? Oh, I don't doubt that, but does that make any sense at all? You didn't lose your faith? Making judgments to avoid Jesus? No, but it's very, not only foundational for science, it's foundational for Christianity. Does that make sense to you? Huh?
Yeah.